Still from our headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria, it's still Enterprise of Morning, and now to our main conversation for today. The Federal High Court sitting in Abuja on Monday dismissed a fresh application for bail for Nnamdi Kanu, the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, pending the determination of the treasonable felony charge the federal government preferred against him.
The ruling was delivered by Trial Justice Binta Yako, and in it, the court said it was not minded to exercise its discretion in favor of the defendant, whom it said jumped the bail it earlier granted him.
Very true. Justice Nyako noted that those who stood surety for the defendant had, after he escaped from the country, approached the court and applied to be discharged from the case.
She held that the sureties in their applications claimed that they were not aware of the whereabouts of the defendant, a situation that forced the court to order the forfeiture of their 100 million bail bonds.
Yes, and it held that having refused Kanu's request for bail on several occasions, the only option available to him was to take the matter before the appellate court. And that's still with us in the studios to do justice to this very sensitive and important discussion today is Emeka Madunaga. Thank you very much for still.
Thank you very much.
With us. So let's get into this meaty part of our discussion today. It's still Nnamdi Kanu, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Yet again, now Mazi is very important.
That is leader.
Very true. So let's take a look at Mazi Nnamdi Kanu yet again. This is the third time, I guess, that he is appearing in court and he's been denied a bail. And it's been asked, the next and the only step, I guess, now is for him to go to the appellate court. What does that mean?
I think the judge was only trying to, what word will I use now? Trying to play the role of Pontius Pilate. You know.
And what will the Pontius Pilate do?
Yeah, by washing his hands of the trial, but in such a way that without clearly saying, I no longer want to continue with this trial. You know, because even Nnamdi Kanu's team has asked the judge to recuse herself. And I have said so, that the judge can no longer sit in the matter. Because she has not for one day acknowledged the reason why Nnamdi Kanu jumped bail, which is a travesty of justice. Nnamdi Kanu explained that soldiers invaded his home while he was on bail. And then he had to flee. Then his shorty said they didn't know where he was. He said he had to flee to safety. Then the next thing, the antagonist who sent soldiers to invade his home still went to Kenya and kidnapped him. So, the judge has refused to acknowledge the fact that there was a serious threat to Nnamdi Kanu's life that made him to be unable to be in court for the continuation of his trial. One. Secondly, the judge has regrettably refused to acknowledge that continuing with Nnamdi Kanu's trial is a total miscarriage of justice because it violates international law. Now, how she played the role of Pontius Pilate? By saying, go to the Court of Appeal. And if you note, the Court of Appeal quashed all the charges because it said the manner in which he was brought to Nigeria violated local and international laws. Then the Supreme Court now ordered a fresh trial. What are we doing to justice in this country? Why do we keep ridiculing the judiciary? You know that this case will not go anywhere. I have, for a long time, been calling for a political solution. Because if the appeal court has said, I've quashed all the charges, so on what are you going to stand? Where are you going to stand? On what premise are you standing the trial of Nnamdi Kanu?
What if the federal government assumes for the sake of national interest?
What is national interest? You deny a citizen of his liberty, you kidnap a citizen. Is that national interest? I excuse myself from such national interest because it's abhorrent and it's abominable.
Okay, Emeka, looking at the recent happenings and the whole passion and not doing the right process of the law. Do you think there is hope for Nnamdi Kanu? Because this is since 2021, this is 2024. Is there hope for him, or should he?
Yes, there is hope. No, you see, the judge has virtually recused herself. And I don't see any possibility of the judge continuing with the trial. Yes, it has got to that point. Because I don't know if Nnamdi Kanu's team has petitioned the NJC to ask that they should,
have a change.
Change the judge, the trial judge. I don't know. I don't have that far. But what I do know is that now that since the appeal court had already said that this trial has no basis in law. So on what basis are you going to now deny him bail? Because if the appeal court has quashed his charges, then what it means is let him go home. Let him go home on bail. Then if you want to arraign him afresh. But first of all, you have to return him to Kenya. Then the Kenyan government, you can now file a request for the Kenyan government to say, okay, please arrest this person and please extradite him to Nigeria. Of course, you have to follow the due process. But when you jump the gun, what you're doing is that you are showing an undue interest in that matter, one. Two, you are already even destroying the rest of the matter, which is the central point on which that matter rests. You are destroying it. So there is nowhere. That's why I've been calling for a political solution. But some people, Nigerians, we like to grandstand. We like to waste a lot of time. When we've gone around in circles, then by the time we are tired, we have exhausted ourselves, then good sense returns. We now go and do what we ought to have done in the beginning.
Now, speaking about political solution, what exactly is it you are earmarking and saying this could be the solution?
I'll give you examples. Look at Showore. He was arrested for the same thing Nnamdi Kanu was arrested, and arraigned for the same thing. But at the end of the day, the federal government knew he had actually no case. Because the defense started bringing up, you said he used the word revolution. Then they started bringing up instances of where some other prominent Nigerians had used the word revolution. And that the use of the word revolution does not implicitly, impliedly mean the overthrow of government.
So let's look at Nnamdi Kanu's.
I'm coming. I'm laying the premise. Yeah. So it does not impliedly mean an overthrow of government. A revolution can mean a change in circumstances, an agitation for better conditions. So, but Muhammadu Buhari, because some people in his government took undue interest in him, they just kept wasting the time of the government, wasting the time of the court, until the current AGF, Lateef Fagbemi, now wrote a notice of discontinuance of trial that the federal government had no interest in it, which was a very smart way of avoiding an imminent defeat. I go to the issue of Sunday Igboho, who was arrested, as he tried to transit through Benin Republic to Germany, Now, of course, the Benin Republic government knew it had no case against Sunday Igboho. So what could have been done? The minimum was that, okay, the Nigerian government would have filed an extradition request. An extradition is not a 24-hour thing. It takes time. So, eminent people like Professor Banji Akintoye, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, stepped into the matter and put pressure on the Benin Republic government. Please don't listen to the Nigerian government. Please don't grant any request for extradition. And by the way, they actually wanted to illegally rendition him. You see, when you have serial breakers of the law, people who don't respect the law, that is the kind of thing you see. They just keep engaging in the same unforced errors and embarrassing the country. So, of course, the Republic government kept him there. Then, when the Tinubu administration came in, he had no inclination to file for his extradition. And the man went to Germany and came back to Nigeria. He has returned to Nigeria. He's moving about freely. So, if You did that in both cases. Then, what is the difficulty in Nnamdi Kanu's case? Nnamdi Kanu has even said that he's willing to work with government to restore peace to the Southeast. And I think that is a solid olive branch.
But how about his succession bid? That
His
is
what?
succession bid, because that is the potpourri, if you ask me. In the
You
whole
see,
of
in
the
chasing
whole-
rats, you don't burn down the house. You can't say because you are chasing rats, you set a house ablaze. You don't do that. The law seeks to reform. The law seeks to correct, injustice, seeks to correct, certain things that are not right. The law does not seek to destroy. The law does not seek to, worsen the plight of a citizen. If a citizen has erred, there are provisions of the law. But even within those provisions, there are also provisions that you can, for certain extraneous, reasons, due to extraordinary circumstances, you can take a look again at the issue or the issues in contention and then say, okay, fine, we have a problem in the Southeast, security problem in the Southeast. And this is the man who has been like a central figure in the upsurge, in the resurgence, So now that he has volunteered to assist government in bringing, finding solutions. Now, why not use him? If you want to cure a virus, what do you use in producing the antidote? Something that's like the virus. You're not going to go and bring me to go and talk to those boys. Now the Kanu knows the language to speak to those boys. I'm not one of them. He is one of them. He's their leader. Now I talked about secession. Chief Anthony and others, people who have been, charged with all of those things. What happened at the end of the day? You cannot see. There is a point you push the law, and then the world starts laughing at you. Because you know what? Part of what he talked about was contained in the 1963 Constitution, referendum. It was just the framers of the current Constitution were just being clever by half, by removing referendum from it. But tell me which part of Nigeria has not called for breakaway? In which part of Nigeria not had called for breakaway? Then you will arrest so many people. In every place, whether it's southwest, southeast, south, northwest, northeast, north central, you will arrest everybody. And how many will you put on trial? You will not arrest only Nnamdi Kanu. Even Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, you will arrest him because he granted an interview to Punch where he said, I don't believe in one Nigeria. You will arrest him to put him on trial. You will arrest so many people and put them on trial. So, what are we talking about? People are disenchanted with the situation in the country. People believe that the nation is not working for them. It's working for just a few people, a few privileged people. Yes, they took up arms. We can look at it that they were misguided. Yes. A child misbehaves. You don't kill the child. What you do your best to correct the child. And that is what the law does. So which is why I've been calling for a political solution. Because if we take this state through the judicial route, we'll just keep going round and round and round and round. And let me tell you, you'll be wasting state resources because there's a claim, that Nnamdi Kanu's team, legal team, that every court appearance costs government 500 million naira. Is it that we have nothing to do with 500 million naira, that we're wasting it on one individual? I think it's better. A political solution, sit down with Nnamdi Kanu, draw up terms. Say, okay, fine, we will suspend the trial. Because the process of taking him back to Kenya will be a big slap on the face of the federal government. 1. 2, do you know how long it will take for Kenya to conclude the process of extradition? Then, don't forget he's a British citizen. So, a lot of things will come into play. Then at the end of the day, what have you achieved? So, it's either of two things. Either you grant him bail, or you order that he should be returned to Kenya.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Emeka. Thank you, Emeka Badinago. Now, moving on, you talked about him saying he wants to work with the government. Now, let's look at...
work with the government to restore peace. Not that he's looking for a job.
I understand. To work with the government to restore peace.
Yes,
now,
to the Southeast, yeah.
Simon Ekpa is another person who has now taking charge in the East, and he's actually blowing it hot.
Purportedly.
Yes, purportedly. And with the videos and the way he actually put himself online, it's been there. Now, let's say Dr. Nnamdi Kanu actually want to work with the government to restore
peace to the South.
Now, how are we going to talk about Simon Ekpa, who is also in the picture?
Look, Simon Ekpa is a citizen of Finland. He's not a citizen of Nigeria. Simon Ekpa is not domiciled in Nigeria. So dealing with Simon Ekpa's issue is very easy. Once you deny him of access, through social media and all of that, which government has done to a great extent, of course, it becomes irrelevant. You see, nature abhors a vacuum. Government allowed this vacuum by not being, by not using different means, by being too, how will I call it now? By not taking certain steps to resolve this Nnamdi Kanu's issue. So, you now created a vacuum whereby Simon Ekpa came on board. But at this point now, because just permit me 2 minutes to add this. Last month, I was traveling from Umuahia to Onitsha. The driver took a detour. Lo and behold, we ran into the enclave of unknown gunmen. In Olu, we saw them, they are youths. They operate with motorcycles, they use masqueraders to block the road. Young men, but you could see their eyes. They were drugged. What did I deduce in that instance? That we have a problem. These are people who don't care. They are ready to die. They don't even value their lives as anything. So what do you do? If you use military force, it means you are just going to get ready to wipe out the entire Southeast. So what do? You have to find a way, because these boys don't respect anybody. They've kidnapped a Catholic priest in Anambra State. The other day, somebody, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, the vice chairman of Nigerian Bar Association, the director of public prosecution in Anambra State was shot dead. Now there's a resurgence in violence. So what do? You cannot use military force because you will end up committing gross human rights violations. So what do? Bring Nnamdi Kanu out. Sit down with him. Draw up conditions. We understand your agitation. Yes, you're a human being. You have a right to agitate if you feel affronted by certain conditions. But steps are being taken to redress the things you talked about. So we will discontinue the trial on the condition that blah, blah. You said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then he has said that when he comes out, he knows the language to speak to those, and they'll stop. So what do I say? Based on my personal experience, based on the things I've heard moving around the Southeast, I think the time has come for us to stop these circles. Release Nnamdi Kanu. Find a political solution to Nnamdi Kanu's matter. Release Nnamdi Kanu. Either you can grant him bail for a period and then change the judge, because the judge has reached the end of her teta on that matter. The end on that matter. And then, otherwise, just return Nnamdi Kanu to Kenya, grant him bail, return him to Kenya, and then you can now start extradition proceedings. Whatever century you are able to resolve that, that's your business. Otherwise, this circus is costing Nigeria so much and is unnecessary.
Very true. And Choma, if you've listened to any of his messages, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, that is, and going by the erratic and the vile nature of his message, do you think the possibility of having him going back to such days are not there if he is possibly granted bail?
I think if he's granted bail, he would actually have to go through the process of unlearning and relearning. And I believe he being in prison, he has actually learned a lot.
Okay.
For him to decide to want to work with the government to restore peace. Yeah. So I believe he would actually want to go with the peace way. That's what I feel.
We wish so. And just like we often do say, you can't substitute nothing else, for peace. Peace has always been the tripod upon which there is development, there's growth, there's sustainability in any country, in any community. And what the Southeast of Nigeria needs the most right about now is peace in that region. And that's just about the time we have for our newspaper conversation today. I'd love to say thank you to Emeka Madunago.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you very much.
It was really
Thank you,
an incisive discussion with you. And for you, thank you also for making time to be part of our show today. But please do want to visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com, and also like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am Henry Igwibike.
I am Choma Dorcas.
On behalf of the entire team, thank you for watching. Bye-bye for us.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.